What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unpopular Kids, where we are getting animated.
Cool.
Yeah!
We all go yay. It's a thing we do. No one knows why.
We don't like to dance. We
wrong.
scare everyone at the table
Always.
just to get into things. What's up, everybody? Hi, welcome to Unpopular Kids. We go over really cool topics of like geek culture and things that make you giddy, or at least things that make me giddy, and I make my friends talk about them. To my left, we have a returning guest, Miss Brizzy Voices.
Brizzy and the hizzy.
Great applause.
I get it.
How have I never heard that before?
Well, now you
Really?
you need a hat that says it.
Yeah.
Like, you know how Flitz is like up top, like Brizzy into hizzy? Like,
I'd wear it. I think I might.
Flitz would wear
With the
it.
shirt with your
Wear
face
it.
on it. I'm your biggest fan.
Actually, I'm a little disappointed this week because it seems that Casual Friday has spread
It's an infection.
to you. And that is a Batman shirt with cats in the background, if you can't see.
Kind of.
Little kids.
Yes, Casual Friday is not stopping, it is spreading.
So Casual
Fantastic.
Friday is a thing I do every single Friday here.
Casual Friday?
Casual Friday, where you wear a cat article of clothing because
Just-
it drives me crazy. And
It does.
It's
How about that?
I
Yeah,
want
it's
it
just a
to
fun
not
thing
be
to
a
do.
thing, but it's a thing.
Well, you
Speaking
can
of
say
which,
it's Casual Friday and I'm feline fine.
that makes it a little bit better.
That is perfect.
Hi, Matt Rob. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm well. How are you,
Not
Joshua?
bad. I'm doing okay. I'm
Great.
doing okay. Someone else that's doing okay, maybe even a little bit better. We have Flitz.
I prefer spiffy.
Oh, spiffy.
I'm quite spiffy.
You are quite
Look
spiffy.
at you, man.
He's a very spiffy individual.
You are a glamour dude.
I am
Well, he don't glamour don't.
I know.
And then I'm gonna butter this up a little bit. This might be my favorite guest we've ever had here on the show, and no offense to every other great guest
We're
we've
gonna
had.
get tweets. We're gonna get so many tweets.
Careful walking to your car, buddy.
But we have Mr. Rob Paulson with us today. And I could just list your accolades and the things that you've done, but maybe you can give us a little smorgasbord of voices that we've heard in the past.
Well, let's see. I was Yakko Warner for a number of years. Hello, Nurse Brizzy. Wow. Let me tell you something, baby. You can come to the water tower anytime you want.
It's just fantastic.
And then I was Pinky on Pinky and the Brain, and I got all nervy every time I, get along with my friend Maurice Lamarche, who played the Brain. And then, let's see, you are looking at 50% of the Ninja Turtles in one.
Yeah, absolutely.
One middle-aged white guy. I was before Brizzy was born. I was Raphael on the original show. I know, sweetheart. I'm telling you, I was the entertainment of the Last Supper. I know. In those days, I was Shecky of Arimathea. Jesus, what a party! So anyway. I was so rough, but what's so cool about this gig, as we all know, and what's really great is, especially for young voice artists to understand, and the cool thing is that nobody cares, although you are incredibly beautiful.
I think he was talking to me. Don't
One of the
His
things
eyes
that's so
obviously at
cool
me.
is that you're not limited by the way you look, right? And I am now Donatello, 25 years later on the latest iteration of Ninja Turtles.
15-year-old turtle.
I'm telling you, right? And so what's so great about that is that I'm not limited by that. And I think that irrespective of whether you're, a beautiful, handsome, tall, short, thin, fat, black, white, green, orange, it doesn't matter
Just
when you're
described
able
all
to.
of me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you're able to be creative and driven and passionate, you really can work almost as long as you feel like it. And I learned that lesson with the latest iteration of Turtles, because I almost was a victim of my own ageism. I could not, I was like, yeah, they want me to, dude, I'm over 50 years old. And they said, oh, no, because the people now who are making it are, 35, 40 years old, so they grew up watching all this stuff. And anyway, the point is that you can continue work, which is so great. And then I was a little fat guy on Jimmy Neutron named Carl. And, oh gosh, I was
This is going to be my favorite episode ever. We aren't actually talking about anything. Just keep talking, Rob.
I just wanted to tell you I've got a gun.
I'm going to try not to fanboy too much.
Oh,
I'm gonna
please,
try to keep it
fanboy as
fresh.
much as you
But
can.
I do have a quick question before we get into the episode, because you have been Donatello and you have been Raphael. And I think
Mm-hmm.
this is just a good voiceover question. How do you make those two voices different?
Well, the truth is the voices I don't make different. I make the characters different. And I think that's the important distinction that a lot of younger actors if I hate to pontificate because it's not like I'm this uber authority, but I think we talked about this the other day. Well, it's, and you would, I think, agree with this, Brizzy. It's called voice acting. And the reason that people love characters, whether it's Bugs and Daffy or Mickey or Donnie or Raph or Pinky or all that, is because they're well executed and they're well performed. It's not everybody can make funny voices, absolutely, but it gets boring and it gets old and it gets hackneyed pretty quick if you don't have a good story and a good script and it's not executed well. So for me, the difference between Raphael and Donatello is not so much the tone of my voice. It's the fact that they are different characters, and the interpretation is different, the execution is different. So the ultimate compliment for me is when a fan comes up and says, oh my God, I'm 35 and I was a huge turtle freak, and now my kids are turtle freaks and we all watch Turtles together. And I have to tell you, when I found out that you were going to be doing Donatello, I thought, well, gosh, that's going to be kind of weird hearing Rob Paulson doing both. But what they say then, which is the ultimate compliment, is to say they're completely different. They're different characters, and that is it's like when we love Jack Nicholson because he's Jack Nicholson, and there's he always does his little Jackisms in everything he does, but they're different. The guy in Prizzy's Honor is different than the guy in The Postman Always Rings Twice. Is different than the guy in The Shining. Is different than the Joker. And he's got his stuff that makes him a movie star and makes him interesting, but he manipulates it in terms of the context of the character. And I think that's more of the issue rather than how did I change my voice.
Interesting. Well, there you go, kids. There's some great advice for you.
I was listening so hard just now.
Like, I heard your ears pop. You were listening so hard.
Anyway, I ramble too much.
No,
Go on to hours.
it is really fascinating to hear you talk because I can just hear every single character with these little nuances as you speak. Well, let's get into this week's Unpopular, kids.
I'm just so freaking enamored by Brizzy. I can't. Oh my God. Wacko, Dot, move over.
There's a new sister in
There's
town.
a new sister in town, baby.
Well, guys, we're starting this episode off with some lightning round.
Oh, and you got even lightning.
Thunder,
There is lightning.
Thunder
You can
round.
hear the lightning. If you close your eyes, you can hear the lightning.
You guys know how this works. We ask questions and then people answer them like lightning fast. Actually, no.
So
please
fast.
feel free to rant if you need. Remember, guys, we get these questions from you guys. So whenever you want, at any point in time in your life, go ahead and tweet us or leave a comment down below with the hashtag Unpopular Kids with your question, and I will make these people answer them because they pretty much do whatever I say when I'm sitting in this chair. Outside of this chair, that's not true. Actually, when I'm sitting down in this chair, hardly. We're gonna start off with the first question, and it's gonna be for you, Rob.
Okay.
And it's from
So
man.
most of the fun of this segment is watching him try to pronounce
Pronounce it.
names.
And like I choose these,
Yeah.
and I'm like I don't even know how to pronounce them.
Why don't you
So
just
this
know
one's
this
from
one by now?
at Stephen Falpao. Failpow.
There you go. You got it.
Failpow.
There you go.
Rob, is
from New
there a
Zealand.
particular ended cartoon series that you would like to make a return?
Oh, yes. Either Animaniacs or Pinky and the Brain. They were both so good. And as you probably remember, Pinky and the Brain was under the Animaniacs umbrella. That was, it's hard to put a favorite thing. I've had such an embarrassment of riches in my life and my career, but I got to tell you, that experience of working with Steven Spielberg and a 40-piece orchestra for every half hour. The music was spectacular.
Yeah.
Everybody on both sides of the glass, Andrea Romano and Tom Ruger and Steven Spielberg and Gene McCurdy on one side, and Tress McNeil and Jess Harnell and Billy West and Maurice LaMarche, Jeff Bennett and all those people on the other side. It really doesn't get much better. So yeah, if they could bring that back, that would be great. And people still love Pinky and the Brain.
It's the nostalgia factor. I think Netflix should pick it up and
Hear,
do
hear.
another series of
I
it.
totally
Yeah.
have a crush on Andrea Romano.
I'm telling you,
what is
buddy,
God.
she's the best. I've
amazing.
known her for 32 years.
Wow.
I love that.
Every
woman.
time I see, I don't think she ever remembers me, but every time I see her, I go, I love everything you've done.
Oh.
You are.
Oh, I
you
do
are-
that from
you
a
are-
distance.
You, are,
Like,
you do. I see. I go walk up to her, and she seems confused every time.
Well, you know what's so great? Andrea has so many Emmys that she dresses them in Barbie clothes.
Amazing.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Amazing. That's great.
I have a new goal in life. You know, it doesn't even have to be Emmys. I will accept any award. I'm gonna go out and buy a bowling
Human-shaped
trophy
award.
and add that. Next question, Flitz. This one is for you from Joshua Lewis. Good name, my friend. We got this from
You can
YouTube.
pronounce it.
How do you feel about certain bad/good casting choices in comic movies? And I want you to give me one good casting and one bad casting.
Are we going with recent comic movies?
No,
Because
I
I
mean
immediately
movies.
thought of like the old Thor.
keep it
Wait, the Ferrigno
no, like
days?
the old Captain America when he had a motorcycle.
Yeah, man.
Like those weren't good.
Okay, well,
That's
that's
JD.
a good
That is
answer.
JD Salinger's son, sir. That is Matt Salinger. Yeah.
Really?
Yep. JD Salinger's son played Captain America in the first movie in like '94. Matt
you
Salinger.
kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Find that on VHS.
Never knew that.
I don't even
Yeah.
think it's on YouTube.
I think we can go with a lot of the Avengers castings. I think they did. Those are all. They did amazing
Perfect.
jobs
Yep.
with and picking fans too. I really think they chose people who were fans of the
That can get
characters,
excited about the character.
to play the characters. As far as I did not agree with who they cast as the Thing. In
The first time or the
Fantastic
second time?
Four.
Okay.
Like not the original.
Not the
Not
94
Not
one,
Roger
no.
Corman.
Yeah, no.
Oh, it was the guy from The Shield.
It was yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, no.
I love
no, but
I
he,
thought he was good.
he wasn't.
He was
no.
better than the second one.
No. Yeah. I didn't. I refuse to watch that, so we don't
I was
talk about
kind of
that.
hoping Hellboy for me. I still think has hands down the best casting.
Ron Perlman as Hellboy.
Yes, exactly. Next question. This time for Brizzy from Ashes the Artiste. And I said that correctly. With shows like Powerpuff Girls and Teen Titans getting remade, what do you think would be a good Cartoon Network show to bring back?
To put away the risk of overthinking it, the first thing that came to mind was Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh, man.
That's a very
great
popular
show.
show.
Wow, I watched that a lot.
Yeah, just because it was so insane and dark and creepy and like so many theories in there that are
Yeah.
fascinating to me, and I just really like to see where that
I think that
goes.
cartoon was like around the time of so many good cartoons. I almost feel like it kind of flew under the radar and it had like a
Yeah.
very niche fan base. I think would be great to get rebooted.
There's a line from that sticks in my head, and it's, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And then he screams, and that makes me laugh every time.
He actually does that every time he comes to the office and has like a cup
We
of
don't
tea.
even have a tea maker here. What are you saying?
I mean, a lot of modern shows have gotten very interesting with their theories and their psychology, like Gravity Falls and all these really deep universes. Just to see where that goes in this time with Courage would be interesting.
It's
I'm
such
in.
a dark show. I
Great
love
point.
that. I loved how dark it was.
Yeah.
Like it got
Yeah.
really kind of twisted for.
So
it was so
freaky.
good. Yeah, I loved
Yeah.
it.
Next question. For Matt Robb, we have from Perfect X Warrior. James Gunn has promised we'll see at least one new Guardian in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Will it be Adam Warlock or a Nova?
Hulk. Hulk.
Was
Send Hulk to space. Sure. Hulk.
he a Guardian?
Yeah.
I'll let you have the answer.
Yeah, sure.
He's a Guardian now.
I don't know.
Cinematic universe.
I am
Damn it.
so in like total popcorn mode after the first one. Like James Gunn, I've been a fan of for 15 years. Everything he's Slither, everything he's done. So I am so in a place where he can make anything now for Guardians 2, and I'd be like, yep, big thumbs up. You're gonna do it. Like honestly, there have been so many different Guardians. I think now Thing is a Guardian. There's so many different Guardians in modern
Well,
comics
aren't
now.
they no longer Guardians of Nothing? I think that's what they're at now. They're like Guardians of Nothing.
Of nowhere. No,
Yeah,
it's
Guardians-
nowhere.
yeah,
nowhere.
Guardians of
Yeah,
Nowhere.
yeah.
They're
But
Guardians of the Wetzel's Pretzel.
at the mall on Tuesdays. Yeah.
New Netflix series coming out.
I'm all for it. I think it could be literally take anyone from the current Marvel zeitgeist and throw them out in space and it'd be great. It'd be a hit.
I'm going to go with
Yeah, I
your
can
first
see that.
answer of Hulk.
Yeah, Hulk.
Because I want to see that.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, fight between Batista would get his ass kicked, right? If he went up against Hulk.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would happen. He wouldn't be able to keep up. Next question. This one is for Rob from @Manly-Simadia. Manly-Simadia.
I think you might be making these up now.
Manly-Simadia.
Blah.
What are your thoughts, Rob, on professional voice actors getting less work due to recognizable celebrities taking over roles?
Well, first of all, I'm a capitalist. I utterly understand that a producer has the right to hire whomever he or she wants. If they determine that
Kurt Russell being the talking dragon, and they're going to pay him, $500 large to be the talking dragon, and it gets butts in the seats. That's great. But I've had experiences with both types of things. That is, I've been involved in features that have had 4 or 5 Oscar winners in the top in the top billing that have gone down to Flusher in the first 2 weeks, and I've had other shows. Jimmy Neutron, had no celebrities in it, made $100 million, got nominated for an Oscar, spun off 2 series. And then you have a show like The Incredibles, which has wonderful celebrity casting, wonderful script, beautiful execution, and it's a great show. So I don't know that having celebrities in the roles obviously makes a difference one way or the other. As far as lesser-known actors taking voice roles, we're all in this together. And so I'm not offended by the choices a producer makes. I'm not going to change that. There is unquestionably a panache, or cachet, I should say, that goes along with being a recognizable actor. It just is. That's the way it goes. I won an Emmy years ago for Pinky, and if I had won the Emmy for being on Frasier, we'd be having this chat on my private island. I would have made my price would have gone up. I would have made, that's just the way it goes when you're recognizable. So when you understand that, I decided to just sort of say, if you can't beat them, join them. I embraced it. That is to say, I'm not going to change the sort of culture of celebrity and the fact that producers and fans or whomever are enamored to some extent by people who are recognized. However, what I can do is make myself so good and get so good and continue to try to work hard to get better and better and better and better, as it doesn't matter how old I am and how much work I am, so that if a producer decides not to hire me, it's only because he or she says, I got to have this person from Who's Cooking the Soup. I want them in my animated show. So I can say this guy who is the next door neighbor on Who's Cooking the Soup on CBS is going to be the talking gerbil in my movie. And then that's all I can do. So, but I have to tell you though, if you get to a certain level and you're proficient at your work, animation is becoming huge. And like the new Turtles, Greg Sipes and I are probably the only ones who are not recognizable face guys. Sean Astin is Raphael, Seth Green is Leo, Ron Perlman is in this show, Lucy Lawless is in this show, David Tennant is in this show. Wow. Yeah, so they still hired me, and I can just only assume that that's because they liked what I did. So
you're good at what you do.
Well, yeah. I think that's for me in listening. That's a very, very, very big sign of mastery. Instead of being a victim to the times, and instead of allowing other people to get in your way, you're like, y'all aren't the issue, and there is no issue. I just have to keep learning. You've become a master, but that doesn't mean you stop learning.
Absolutely
in your mastery,
not.
you realize you're doing
Always
it too.
get better.
Well, then I'm gonna
Always
show
get
you
better.
how to master do, and I'm gonna keep going being better.
That's true.
So yeah,
And you still want to raise the bar, and I listen, man. Brad Pitt didn't know anybody when he came here either, and so I didn't. Good for Brad Pitt. And if all of a sudden Brad can make $5 million being a talking dragon, good for him. I'm not going to get pissed off at that. You're right, absolutely. Because once you start feeling like you're a victim, then you let other people manipulate your skill, your drive, your everything that you wanted to do any of this for at the beginning was not for money. We all know that. I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is better. I get that. but if the money is what drives me, then I lose the sort of I lose the essence of what it is that got me to do this in the first place. I'm as driven at 60 as I was at 19. I promise you. And Welker's the same way. Frank loves to be creative. And so you're right. Do not be a victim. Absolutely, none of us.
More great advice. This might be the episode with all the best advice you should take from it. Listen to this episode 3 times. Don't be a victim. Always get better at what you do.
There you go.
Next question for Flitz from Arvin Bhattacharya.
Oh my God! Are you just looking for the... You know what? Why don't you just call everybody John Smith and all the letters are silent?
Smith. What is your opinion on the new Teen Titans versus Justice League animated movie, and what are your hopes for it?
I feel like what's been being done, and it's a thing that's been paved, is the the way has been paved amazingly by the Paul Dini's, Bruce Timms, the Batinas, the Andrew Romanos. They're growing up, and it's an interesting thing because it's Teen Titans versus Justice League. The Teen Titans, we've watched them grow up. We've watched them go through terrible things with Slade, and even in Young Justice, watching them aspire to become the Justice League and to be the heroes. I haven't watched the trailer for it. I don't know what it's going to be, but what I can say is in watching what DC has been doing with their animation and slowly taking off the gloves, because that's where they are incredibly powerful as a company. I hope they keep that grit that they've been adding to their animation, that they've been adding between Lois Lane giving the finger and
I think have been the best ones.
And they have a team that loves directing action. Like they're like, listen, I wanted to make a really cool fight scene, and they have tons of Easter eggs. Like they have the nerds in their pool, and I really hope they do amazing things.
That you observed how that team is sort of growing up and getting better and all of that. I've known Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, I don't know, 25 years, and they're continuing to get better and better and better too. They're not resting on their laurels, and you guys recognize that.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. No, that's great. That's what they want. Those guys, are still learning and still getting better. I love that you.
And it's a
noticed
passion
that.
for the source material. That's something I think we
Absolutely.
talked about it last week. One of the reasons why I feel like Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is such a hit is because he showed how much passion he had for the source material. And as fans, we don't want to be patronized. We don't want to be talked at.
Boy.
We want to be talked to.
Did
Like
you ever
JJ
say a
with Star
mouthful,
Wars.
man? that is so true. And I think even with shows that are kids shows or little kids shows, once the creators condescend to the audience, forget it. Then it might as well be Teletubbies or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I understand why those shows work. They're very rudimentary, repetitive. Okay, but the shows that continue to last, like Doc McStuffins, is a very sweet, smart show, and they assume that the kids get it.
It's the difference between pop music, which is the verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, versus the timeless, Zeppelin,
Exactly
the
right.
Pink Floyd,
Exactly
like the ballads.
Exactly right.
So I mean, and that's and we're coming back around to the age of the ballads, but
Yeah,
we'll probably talk
well
about
said.
that later.
This one comes from superfan at Kathleen_Angel for Brizzy. Who is your favorite voiceover artist?
That's not a good question.
Mine is Brizzy.
Oh, there you go.
Just so we're clear. Mine is, look at that.
No pressure to answer.
But
Honestly.
hey, and like for real though, Rob is up there because of not only voicing my childhood, no big deal, but the fact that it's so in his heart that he goes out of his way to share it with the world and show everyone what voiceover is all about and who all of these people are and what they do and what their talents are and who they are and how funny they are with his podcast Talking Tunes, which I've been listening to since 2012.
Oh, honey, thank you very much. That's so sweet.
And
Thank
it's
you.
just been really helpful and really insightful, and it's made me a lot more excited for this world that I'm trying to get
And
into.
can I tell you, we have the same agent, don't we?
Yeah.
And they are so excited about you, which is a cool thing because I'll be straight up, I've been with SBV since 1979. Wow. So when somebody comes along and they say, holy shit, this girl is really good. That is wonderful. They really are impressed by you.
Yay.
And it's not...
We are too. We keep having her back here.
You're on your way, sweetie. You can probably stop doing the Amway thing now because you're so you can stop selling Herbalife or whatever.
But that's
just
where
bought a
my
patch.
passion is.
Always get better at it.
Try Gerbalife.
I want to name more though.
Oh, keep going.
Please
Keep going.
do. There are
This is your spot.
Because if there was any voiceover talents that I could steal, it'd probably be Frank Welker and D. Bradley Baker. Just because, I want to do those crazy noises that I just can't fathom where they come from.
And I think that because I know them both really well, and they literally can manipulate their sinuses, and they do shit that is so odd, and it doesn't hurt them. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
It's just
where they
magic.
come up
My
with that
ears
stuff.
in
It's
a
crazy
special way.
what they do,
Yeah.
and they do it boom on the spur of the
Yeah.
moment.
Oh, I just want to do that.
I
That
know.
sounds so fun.
It's spectacular.
Yeah.
That's
And then Gray Griffin and Tara Strong are like career
Yeah.
goals for me. So I'm like, can I
Great
do
goals to
what
have.
you do? Thank you.
You'll be fine.
Fantabulous actresses.
You have great taste.
To wrap up Lightning Round, our fastest segment here on Unpopular Kids, we have
So fast.
Matt Rob from at Morgazoyer 14.
Jesus.
Morgosier.
I give a little French to it. If you could be the original voice for any video game character, which character would you choose and why?
Oh, man.
Staying in the theme of this week's episode.
The voices and such. That is such a loaded question. I already am one.
Wow.
Yeah. I am in the game Marvel Ultimate Alliance as Thug 2.
What?
Wait, part 1 or 2?
1.
Oh,
Did you work on that one?
My name is in the credits for part 2.
You guys both worked on the same game?
Same series.
Same series.
I honestly did. I love that. Like, and it was a lot of like, ooh, God, damn you, Spider-Man. I love that.
I auditioned for that too,
Yeah.
though. It was at a booth at Comic-Con?
Separate, and then I went to a second thing.
Oh,
afterwards.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
See?
But I mean, like I love the concept of just like going in and like being a character where you could just get your ass kicked by one of your heroes. Yeah. That's such a cool. Like, sure, everybody wants to be the hero, but how fun is it to be like, yeah, no, I got punched in the face by the Hulk like 30 or 40 times. It was kind of weird.
So now, anytime I have like an exhausting episode of Unpopular Kids that we just film, I can go home and play Marvel's Ultimate Alliance and just beat you
the
up.
crap out of me. Yeah.
All right,
That's
new
for you.
to-do list. All right, guys, that's been lightning around here on Unpopular Kids. Now it's time to get into the meat of the episode, and we're gonna be talking about cartoons then and now. Really, I want to know who has it better, kids these days or when we were growing up. So kind of looking at that, starting with you, Matt Rob.
As a kid, now.
As a child that you are now.
adult.
Well, because like we have so many different types of cartoons now, and we had so many different types of the cartoons were more geared towards who has it better? Who has the best cartoons? Let's start off like really loaded, really intense.
Such a loaded. Who has the best cartoons? Well, I mean, growing up with all the stuff that Rob was attached to and everything in the 80s and the 90s, we had it great. We had some of the greatest cartoons, I think, to date. But I feel like it's a different breed of creature now. It's very different because I also think as an adult, we've got some of the best television that is animated shows right
question.
now. I think we went to Talkin' Toons Live and you had the guys that did Rick and Morty, which I think is one of the best sci-fi series to
fantastic.
date.
In
It's
love with
amazing. It's
in
amazing,
love with it.
you know, and stuff like that. Like the fact that we all grew up together and something that you mentioned, like all the people that are working on cartoons now are the people our age that grew up with all these things. So they have an appreciation for the craft. So I feel like in a way, because we get both, we had great cartoons then and we have great cartoons now. I feel like it's great. It's fantastic to kind of have that legacy. But the best part is I think that we're able to share that and take that to our kids and to younger generations and be like, look what we had. Take a look at the real Ghostbusters. Take a look at Ren and Stimpy. Take a look at all these things that we had as kids and enjoy it because this is what we had. And if you can take that appreciation to the next level, imagine what that evolution will look like 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah, precisely. And I feel like there were they were timeless cartoons, and I say this even without you here, that Animaniacs, I think, is one of those timeless cartoons that whether I was watching it as a child or I watch it now as an adult, you catch things that you didn't when you were a kid, and they become very, very timeless.
The only exception being like the nations of the world, certain countries that aren't accurate anymore.
How about that? Yeah.
That song needs to be updated a little bit.
It has been. The guy, Randy Rogel has written a new lyric. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
So
Well, I'm almost curious because I also grew up watching a lot of like Hanna-Barbera cartoons and like those classics at the same time as watching like the 80s and 90s cartoons. And I wonder, has the evolution kind of been the same? Are we seeing history repeat itself? Yes, Flitz.
We
raise our hands here, Rob.
Flitz got so
polite young
excited
man.
when he found out what we were
Raising
doing
his
this
hand.
episode. He's like, "This is my episode."
I
We're talking about
live,
cartoons.
I continue, like it's my work life, our work life. We are cartoons, but I realize how much,
Literally.
how we are.
Lost Games
I
Anime.
realize how much my home life, the people I surround myself are even more so cartoon characters. And I realize my life, in taking that into consideration, even now, like we sit around and watch cartoons. We watch Adventure Time. We watch even Archer. We watch the Moonbeam Cities. I can say it was great. The transition is interesting because as you mentioned, you're a capitalist. We went through, as Matt Rob has taught me a while ago, we went through a toyetic era where that was the pop music era, right? And at some point, when the Animaniacs came along, and it was an interesting transition because cartoons were they were for adults, and then they became for kids. They were outsourced. They became cheaper. They realized they could sell toys on them, and then they started selling toys on them. But then a generation who really actually genuinely like cartoons being able to create cartoons that were toyetic, but at the same time they made you think. Animaniacs, one of the best examples of that, with songs that are just programmed into my mind, and I might not remember them word for word, but if I go back to it and I hear them 3 times, I know them inside and out, and I can tell you all 50 states of the United, and so stuff like that.
Good point, because God knows. Look, you were right, and I've used that example, Animaniacs, many times, because Ninja Turtles got to be essentially, half-hour commercials to sell action figures. I totally get that. And, I couldn't pay my mortgage if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
However, that's what, to me, makes Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain in particular so valuable and so worthwhile, because there was very little merchandise. If you found it, you might find it at the Warner Brothers Studios store. It was way overpriced and all of that. But the shows were made for the love of the medium. And they were made, like people say, art for art's sake. They were made for this, because you exactly nailed it. They made it for the passion of doing it, in the sort of same mold as Looney Tunes. So when Mr. Spielberg gets on board, and like I said, we had 40 pieces for every half hour. That never happens. That's the way all the old cartoons used to be. But I used to go to scoring sessions all the time. If Yakko climbs up the water tower, the xylophone guy is watching the screen, he goes, ding, and it's the coolest thing in the world.
Wow.
But it doesn't happen anymore, and only because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe
I
on
think the closest
features.
is what Seth MacFarlane does with his
Totally.
orchestra for Family Guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's incredible. And I think, there are probably a few T-shirts there too, but it's not like action figures and all of that stuff. So you're right. I've seen both sides of that. And you made a very excellent point about shows that are done for their own sake. And there's a nostalgia vibe that connects you to your toys and all of the stuff from when you were a kid and you hear the voices or the music. But then there are things like you were talking about, Josh, where you see these shows 15 years later, 20 years later, and you see and hear a hip cultural reference or political reference that you never would have gotten at 10 years old, and that still makes them relevant. And that's important. Rocky and Bullwinkle is still as entertaining now as it was when they were made 50 years ago.
Well, what I like, coming back around to what I realize is, this generation and as the kids, the younger generation watches these cartoons, and now where they were meant to buy toys, now we're dressing as our toys.
Yeah, man.
Which also means
Says the guy with the Pinocchio hat.
which also means these kids, if you're watching these cartoons, if you're watching Adventure Time, there's a whole episode about ontological design and creation of life. And so when these kids are watching these shows and they dress as these characters, they embrace these concepts from these worlds, and they understand, I believe in magic is cool. I can be this greatest warrior and pursue and go through life this way. It's a different animal. So it's fun. But it would not have existed without, the toys and then the voices and then the...
No, it's all this big collective, and I love that people are so passionate. Every other week there's another Comic-Con springing up. They're so ubiquitous now. And I go to shows all over the place that bring 100,000 people in. It's not just, L.A. and New York or San Diego, New York. I go to Comic-Cons all the time. There are 100,000 people, and they're the most delightful, sweetest, passionate people, and so kind. And oh my God, I am so lucky to be part of it. I can't even tell you.
Well, now speaking of which, I think that Brizzy, you have a very unique point of view, where you obviously grew up with these great cartoons, and now you're at the beginning of your voice career. So what is your opinion on watching these new cartoons now going into this field?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I was going to say the similar sort of thing that Matt was talking about, whereas as far as who's got it better, it all depends on who your parents are and what they decide. Technically, kids now have it better because they have a larger library to pick from. Yeah. But as far as going into it, it's interesting to think getting into it, I'm just going to be starting with this era, and there's nothing I can do about that. Right. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there is such a huge...
Yeah,
exactly. There's such a huge library now that it's the possibilities are endless, and there are so many genres now.
You're right. And on those genres, you not only have cartoons that are geared towards kids, but also geared towards adults. Like you have your Adventure Times, your Archers, and your Rick and Mortys. And how do you think that's affecting animation? Do we think we're getting, obviously we're getting even more shows, but that's something that we didn't really have in the 80s and 90s. You had shows for the kids that had some adult jokes in there for the adults, but now you have shows specifically for adults and specifically for kids.
You had your Simpsons. I think Simpsons was the one
yeah.
that brought the kids in. And I think they're at season 22 now, something like that. Yeah, I mean, you always had something like that was the couch grabber, right? It was the thing that brought the whole family together. Mom can enjoy it, dad can enjoy it, the kids can get it.
I don't know. I wasn't allowed to watch it.
But this is what I mean. There's a lot of kids that weren't allowed. I watched South Park. I mean, there were a lot of parents that were like, you can't watch this, but sure, you can watch this. You know, it's an interesting culture to see. But now I'd be really curious, like, if I had kids, would I let them watch Rick and Morty? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I think, I mean, when I was a kid, there was primetime animation. Now, remember, we only had 3 networks. There was no Fox, no DVD, no video.
But you had YouTube, right?
Yeah, we had inner tubes. That was it.
We went outside.
Yeah, but the Flintstones was prime time. There was a show called Wait Till Your Father Gets Home that was a primetime show. Johnny Quest. Johnny Quest was a primetime show. And so we had them. It wasn't unusual. There are also lots of primetime animated specials, obviously all the Charlie Brown stuff. I did a bunch of them for CBS based on the comic strip Kathy. Where I played Kathy's boyfriend, Irving. And it was Kathleen Wilhoit and myself as Kathy and Irving. And we did, 4 or 5 of them for CBS. So primetime animation is not new. But I'll tell you what is new is the ways in which the population of the world consumes their animation or their entertainment. Everything is going here. I'm doing
telepathy.
Hey man, I'm doing 3 shows now for DreamWorks that are 3 of 12 new shows just for Netflix, not for broadcast television. Sorry about that, bobblehead. Not for broadcast TV, not for video. They're just for Netflix because they know that that's where everything is going. And the good news for people like Brizzy is that you're at the. I mean, I came along at a great time when animation just exploded. Even though there's no more Saturday morning cartoons, when I came along, it was, wow, all of a sudden Cartoon Network sprung up and satellite TV and VHS, then Laserdisc, then DVD, and all this stuff. And then video games. The amount of different types of work you can do with your voice.
Whole other thing.
You're in a great spot. Because they're just, and then they're going to start creating things. People like you will create shows just for the internet, and you're doing.
It's already happening.
It's already happening.
That's already Bravest Warriors.
I did a show. Yeah, Bravest. I did the pilot for that years ago, and now it's just a video. I mean, just for internet. My son produced a show I was on called Bravo Man, and we did 12 episodes of Bravo Man.
Check it out.
Paid for by Bandai Namco, who owns.
Oh wow.
All these old video game characters.
Metal Gear. Yeah.
So it was me and Jennifer Hale and D. Bradley Baker.
Wow.
And it was a blast. We did 12 of them.
Well, you've got your Channel Frederator, which are the Bravest Warrior guys, and they kind of created a network of animators who wanted to animate for the sake of content as opposed to just doing it for work. And then some of those became, that was where Adventure Time came from.
Absolutely.
Adventure Time is one of the biggest shows in the world, and it came from a network that made content for the internet.
The same phenomenon that launches people like Ruth B., who is I just love her voice. She's an amazing singer, this sweet little girl from Canada. And Justin Bieber and all of the people who are becoming enormously famous popped out of the internet as a result of that incredible fame. When you drive down Highland now, you see it. There are people whom I've never heard of. That doesn't mean they're not talented. It just means that the way that they're making their way into the business is different. And so you drive down Highland and you see these billboards for new talent, and what they say at the bottom is 3 million Twitter followers, 12 million Twitter followers. And so that doesn't make me go, are you fucking kidding me? It makes me go, that is genius. I want to learn that because that's the way it's going. So if you're young and talented and driven, oh, honey, you're in a great spot. Yeah.
Well, seeing how like now we have.
You were looking at me the whole time, right? I'm very pretty.
He's like,
no offense. You're easy on the eyes, but let me tell you something, Matt. I dig that Grizzly Adams vibe.
So now I really want to look at what are the major differences between like the 80s and 90s cartoons versus the cartoons now. Differences in storytelling versus talent versus like obviously we've talked about how you so many different means of getting the cartoons, but like what are the big differences?
I mean, I honestly think a lot of storytelling comes from experience, right? You write what you know, and the people who wrote Flintstones knew Honeymooners. So it was a
Totally
parody.
right.
It was a parody of Honeymooners. Nowadays, you've got something like a Rick and Morty, which is a parody of any sitcom on television. They even break it out with A and B stories like a sitcom.
Right.
So I think that's the benefit now is that there's, like you said, I think there's enough content in a library for people who grew up, like the Justin Roilands of the world or the Bravest Warrior teams of the world, to go, oh, well, this was this from 40 years ago, and this is this for 50 years ago, and 10 years ago, and an hour ago. I'm going to parody that. I'm going to make it like this. Evolution is only going in a better place. So I think that like now we have so much back catalog content of TV and movies and film and news and historical events that we can take and satire or take a spin on or retell. Now is the best time.
Absolutely. And when I went to the live show of Talking Tunes, I went to the Fairly Odd Parents one.
Oh, wasn't that fun?
It was amazing.
Thank you.
But what I didn't know was that show has been around for 15
years.
seasons.
And I've
15
like
years.
it is among my favorite
Oh,
cartoons
thank you.
of all time. Like it
Mine
is
too.
a
I'm a fan of the
just
show. It's clever.
funny,
Very
funny.
quick.
Exactly.
What is that magic? How did they
Ha.
do that?
Well, they have
so much
magic
funnier when I'm
powers.
not trying.
It won.
Little brownie thing.
But how do you have a show that can go for 15 seasons, like Simpsons for 20 seasons? Like obviously, like that one has more like satire. It speaks off of real life, so it's easier. But what is the magic? Like how do the shows that we have now? What do they have to do to last?
I think it
15
comes
seasons?
down to characters and how interesting the characters are and how many endless possibilities the story has to take with those characters.
Going as a pretty avid watcher and rewatcher of Adventure Time, it's because it creates a world.
Yeah.
It's these are universes. People, and you compare it to how our video games have evolved as well, from this 2D plane to this 3D plane, now going super duper
Open
immersive.
world.
Big,
We're going,
sweeping
we're
cinematic scores and music.
we're going away from away from a non-linear existence. You have to rewatch some shows, and they're good enough that you want to rewatch them. When you play a game, in video games, if you want to compare it, we're going into open world, open universe. We're about to go to the Andromeda galaxy and live out these amazing imaginary places, and that's what I feel like is a secret. We exist in these worlds. I have a story of my own that exists in the Ninja Turtles world because the world has been established so well, even tying into the Daredevil world.
Yeah.
You know, like that's so.
My favorite
like
Easter egg ever.
I feel like going off of you saying there needs to be characters, and that's another thing. Maybe it's a product of the internet, right? Because before the age of the internet, you were a dude who existed, but I had no concept.
We don't talk about me before the internet.
I had no concept of your existence. Now, with Facebook and social medias, I am constantly tapped into who you are as an individual. You're a much broader
Plus our
person.
date night.
Crotchety. Really crotchety.
So with animation, now we've become higher empaths. So we have a greater connection to the characters inside the animated worlds as well.
As immersed you can be in that world and how lost, I guess, you can
Well,
get in it.
I think that's, listen, if you go to see a movie and you're there for a couple hours, but if you play a video game, you drop $50, which is incredibly, the amount of entertainment you get from a video
Per
game
hour, yeah.
versus what it costs to produce one and the time horizon to get it out there and be competitive and all of that, because it is a for-profit business, right? So
Right now.
Right now.
Right
But
now.
you
You know, it's interesting because that whole generation is also becoming like there are people making games for the sake of games.
making it.
It's getting there. We're not there yet.
Right,
But
and you know there will always be, I believe, probably a profit motive to some extent, because if you're going to spend $20 million developing a game, most people don't have their own $20 million to develop it.
Sure.
But irrespective of that, when you play a video game, man, you might be able to play it for 50 hours, so that every day you're listening to Troy Baker or Nolan North or Jennifer Hale, or every day for several hours, and they become sort of, as you said, kind of incorporated, or you become inculcated with this world. And I think the best entertainment, that's why people as I said, the whole paradigm of how we consume entertainment has changed. Everybody binge watches now. And so if you want to watch Sons of Anarchy, man, you can become friends with these people in this world for the next month.
I always have
You know?
wanted to be a part of a motorcycle gang,
Yeah.
and that show gave it to me. I should not have bought that leather jacket, though.
Can I just tell you, like, here, and I love this conversation because I was a huge fan of, I am a huge fan of Downton Abbey. That's a time, it was even though it's a fictional place, it was all of that happened. All of that was real stuff. The cars were real. The gentrified folks who lived that way were real. It was the time when it was starting to go away from these people who owned these enormous estates. But every time you watch that show, I would just be drawn into this world, drawn into it. And I think that's whether it's Star Wars or Downton Abbey or Rick and Morty. If it's well produced and the people are passionate about it. Also, the truth is we're at a place now where you can get away with more stuff. And you can make the argument, as you guys have kids, you'll be confronted with things that will make you think about whether or not this is appropriate for my child to listen to. So not only do you have more choices, but the responsibility really is more onerous on the shoulders of parents because you have to be careful with your kids' watch, right? But the first line that I had as a cast member of Rick and Morty was, "Where are my testicles, Summer?" I mean, when I read that, I just said, "Oh, gee, this is fantastic." But there are people who their parents are going to say, "Oh my God, where are my testicles?" You know, they would never have.
I don't want to tell my children where their testicles are.
And going off the
I'll tell you where they are. Ask your mother. That's where they are.
They're in a jar on the shelf.
Your mom will tell you where your old man's testicles are.
It's become a lot of difference between the tact and the language and how language has evolved and how it's no longer a speaking down to,
Right, it's not
right? Because
condescension.
it's
It's what we
now
talked
it's
about
now
earlier.
a talk. It's because for a long time we've learned you talk to your kids Google Gaga, they're gonna talk Google Gaga. But now it's like talk to your kids like adults, and certain cartoons are talking to kids like adults, and either the kids like ha ha I don't get it ha, or they're like huh, and the parents sitting there like huh, and that's
But
where
see, you made a good point earlier. It makes you want to explore what is this thing they're talking about. I'm going to find out what they're talking about, and
Get invested.
get invested. And I think that you said it earlier too about not being a victim. It's the same thing when you expect people to get it, or you expect your children to perform at a higher level. And I'm not talking about corporal punishment. I'm just saying, you know what? Unless you've got a serious, clear issue, assume that the audience and or your children are smart enough to get it. And it pays huge dividends because the average intellect from the people I meet now who are 25 or 30 years old it has to be a number of IQ points higher than it was when I was 25 or 30 because there's so much information available to people. And you guys are not frightened by it, you know, and you embrace it. It's pretty cool.
Also, I think that we were talking about having like an immersive world that really sucks you in. I also think that a great script, I think, is
writing is essential.
Like so when I saw the Fairly Odd Parents, and you guys read through an episode, I really didn't understand until I heard it that way. That like you get all like the flashing colors and funny jokes, and you're watching a cartoon.
It just reads funny.
Yeah, it read so funny, and
that's
I'm like,
Butch Hartman and his
that's how you
buddies.
do it.
That group of writers, they add and subtract every now and then, but the lion's share goes to Butch Hartman, the creator, and his staff. I mean, and all the scripts are like that. They make us laugh out loud just reading them.
It's that passion.
And so
It's gonna
you're
make a
right.
good
You know,
product.
when they're that beautifully written, the same thing was true with Pinky and the Brain. Clearly, The Simpsons. I mean, Tress MacNeille has done 500 Simpsons alone. Wow. And it's pretty remarkable run. You know, and it's just great, solid writing.
Absolutely. Now this has been such a one of my favorite episodes of Unpopular Kids so far. And before we wrap it up, like we aren't done yet, ladies and gentlemen. We still have one more
wait,
fun
there's
segment
more.
for you.
Now, how much would you pay?
Oh, still not 1995. We have Make It Work.
oh.
Let's make it work.
Oh, we are gonna make it work. You're gonna
We do a
make it
fashion
work.
show.
I'll make it work.
So this is the segment on the show where obviously all the studio execs out there in the world, they watch this show and things that we talk about eventually become true in fact and people steal our ideas. So here's what we pitch
We mail
our
a
ideas.
VHS tape to every studio in Hollywood.
Okay.
So we're going to get into the spotlight and we're going to pitch an idea and we're going to make something work.
Cool.
This week, we're going to take a live action franchise and make it work as an animated series. We saw a lot of this in the 80s and 90s when you had like the Go Ghostbusters cartoon, the Peter
Right.
Pan cartoon. There's a number of examples. So
MC Hammer?
MC Hammer.
Hammer Man.
Cartoon.
Hammer.
I did one called Pro Stars with Bo Jackson, Wayne
remember
Gretzky,
that.
and Michael Jordan.
Wow.
Man, there was Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
There was
That
so
was a cartoon?
the '90s. There was just so
I did one
much.
called
Sell more
Attack of the
toys.
Killer Tomatoes.
Yes,
Yep.
Yep,
yes.
remember that too. All of them.
For Brizzy's.
Yes.
I've never seen that Rob that excited.
I like My Little Pony.
I don't know.
So we're going to start with you, Rob. I want to know, I want you to pitch it, make it work. What is a live action franchise that needs to have its own cartoon?
Well, a live action franchise that needs to have its own cartoon. I would say that a Duck Dynasty. Because all of a sudden everybody in the show will talk like Daffy Duck. And everybody will say, you're despicable, and I'm so sick of that frickin' camo and your goddamn beard. No fun, no offense.
No, it's
But I
okay.
mean, your beard and my beard are from completely different planets when you're talking about beards. But those assholes, I mean, that would be because they are cartoons. Sorry about this. You might want to wear an umbrella or a wetsuit.
Joven is going to frame the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. The next person coming here is going to see mold growing on this microphone. But I say Duck Dynasty would be a fabulous cartoon show.
I'm just going to close my eyes and listen to this segment on repeat and just Daffy Duck.
Yeah,
is then
and I even
speaking
do a
next to
bad
me.
Daffy Duck, and it doesn't matter because it's so freaking weird. Next time you hear this, have a couple of shots of vodka and a Vicodin, and everything will be fabulous. Okay, next.
Well, yeah, good luck to the rest of us
Yes.
for having to follow that. Flitz, what live action franchise needs to have a cartoon?
You know what? I've been on this. I've been on a. So I love the science cartoons. I watched Dexter's Laboratory, of course.
Laboratory.
I love that. I was Major Glory on that show.
That's awesome.
Things we
So
still
and
like.
being of course a Jimmy Neutron fan, I think it would be great
smart.
you take voice actor of Sonic, Jaleel White,
Jaleel White,
and
yeah.
you give him a Steve Urkel cartoon, but he's a super scientist, and
the
when
second
he's
time
not,
you've pitched.
I know I'm on a Family Matters tick. I'm on a Family
Good for
Matters
you,
tick.
bud.
You take Steve Urkel's, and it's the Adventures of Urkel's when he wasn't at the Family Matters house. He was bothering, Laura. He was doing science
He was a mad
projects and
scientist.
doing dope science stuff, and that's how he exists in this animated world where he's a dynamic individual, but he just can't
So
seem
it's Family Matters
to
meets
win over the
Dexter's
love
Laboratory.
of
That's
Laura.
brilliant. That's a great idea. That is a great idea.
Very good.
For me, which I'm kind of surprised they haven't already, because they've been seen as over-the-top characters. They've been seen as superheroes in a video game now, and as penguins in an animated penguin movie about surfers. But the characters from WWE, just like
Oh, you're
wrestling
bringing
as a
wrestling
whole.
back?
Yeah.
Rapping wrestling
Rapping
is for a new
wrestling.
generation.
It just needs to be a cartoon, but that's even one of my favorite tropes when it comes to cartoons is seeing characters that we know and love, but putting them in a high school element. Like Tiny Toons was one of my favorite. So let's put the WWE characters and you put them in high school. You have
WWE
like
babies.
not babies. You have like Principal McMahon. You have the star quarterback Triple H, who's going out with head cheerleader Stephanie McMahon, and then you have like
Great idea.
the seniors are all like the old school Attitude
Well,
Era.
they kind of are already doing this. They have Camp WWE, which is, I think, only on their network.
On
Again,
their network,
creating
yeah.
content just
Really?
for the internet. But it's basically a summer camp that they all go to.
See,
you did it.
There you go.
Yeah, good job.
You came to you in a
back.
fever dream.
Yeah. But now they're going to go out of camp and they're going to go back to school, and that's my idea. You're welcome
Nice.
to the McMahon family. Enjoy the money.
WWH.
I can do a voice if you need me to. Just that's all I need. Have fun. What's your pitch?
Mine is kind of a predictable answer for anyone who knows me, and it'd be Harry Potter. But
That's so fun. My
a great
second,
answer.
my other answer was going to be The Magicians.
magic.
Magic.
So I don't actually want it right now. I want it in like 10 or 15
Oh, okay,
years.
it's made to order.
I
Got
want
it.
it when, if Harry Potter sometime goes down as far as like children getting into it because they're like, ugh, books, because they just like their little cartoons and stuff.
Just teleport it to my brain,
yeah,
Mom.
Yeah. So then I want a cartoon sort of with the vibe of Avatar: The Last Airbender, as far as like a big saga. And there's a lot of parallels with Avatar and Harry Potter. You know, this kid, 10 or 11 years old, with these powers, trying to save the world with the two
With a funny
friends
shape on their forehead.
and a funny shape on the forehead.
It was like
Perfect.
Charles Manson
Manson had that.
Yeah.
Funny shape on his forehead.
It's such a
Wizard, we figured it out.
That makes sense.
Who's the
Plays
Dark Wizard?
everything.
We could have Daffy Duck Dynasty with Charles Manson.
As long as there's a forehead mark, guaranteed success.
I like the fact that you want that 10 to 15 years from now, so you get that nostalgia factor in
Yeah.
it, which, as we're proving now, makes everything better.
And Avatar
It
was
does.
so well made and such a great vibe that kids and adults freaking love it.
Love
and
it.
I just love the whole saga aspect of it. I want like book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it even possible given the
Have
play.
you watched Korra? You watched Korra, though,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Janet
Yes.
Varney is Cora.
Yes.
She's wonderful.
Yes.
Korra the Explorer.
Korra.
Nice. Dude. Hey, you're going to be on Daffy Duck Dynasty. Yeah. Excellent.
That's a really good, and you know what? I think that's very feasible. It's very feasible.
And maybe in 10 or 15 years, since we've already got the films and the books, maybe we want his kid's story.
In high
Since
school.
We've got,
Or in wizard school. Never mind, it's Harry
wrestling.
Potter again.
I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
since we've got the play coming out this summer, which is basically the sequel of Harry and what his kid is
Are
going
they
through
doing-
at
is it
Hogwarts.
a musical or something?
It's a straight play
Interesting.
in London. I'm
Wow.
going to in October.
Yay! Good for
His
you.
son
Yeah.
Larry Potter.
Larry Potter.
Larry.
Larry Potter and a J.K.
Harry
Rowling.
Potter.
The brilliantly named Albus Severus Potter.
Oh,
Yeah.
not even close. I was way off.
Larry's his brother that we don't talk about.
Yeah, so if we want more surprises as far as where the story is going, we could go for that.
Get on it, JK, and cast her.
Yeah.
That was always my dream, was to play Hermione. Always, always,
Oh,
always.
honey.
You'd
You knocked the hell out of
as
it.
homie.
Matt Rubb. I regret this already.
No, I would love an animated series based on The Mask. Wouldn't that be great? If
Oh, yeah. It would be. And you know what? Get some nondescript actor to play the mask and pay him no money. Like Jim Carrey.
For those of you playing at home, Rob was on The Mask, which
was The Mask, and I loved it. I loved it.
Thank you. That was a fun show.
In all seriousness, I think I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan.
Oh, yeah.
I've been not the Forrest Whitaker 90s Twilight Zone that they
Right.
tried, but the original Twilight Zone. And I think
where
having
this answer's
those
going.
stories
I think
and
it's
kind
called
of,
Courage the
as-
Cowardly Dog.
No,
See how she brought it right
yeah,
back?
right back around.
That's dope.
I would love like an awesome anthropology style show where it's about just. I mean, we have. Black Mirror, which is a big thing, and it's for adults. But I feel like having something like that, where you can take the Twilight Zone stories that at this point fans are probably a little numb to because they are old sci-fi, right? At its core, they've got great stories, but kind of make them animated and for a new generation.
Great idea.
Because you could draw the
So same
imagery could be
stories?
much more dynamic.
Kids can accept and kind of soak in so much more when it's animated, just because of the colors and the brightness and how clean everything looks. Than trying to sit down a kid and say, okay, well this is William Shatner. He's on a plane. There's a thing on the wing of the plane. Yeah, exactly. See,
It's not in
Where's
color,
the
bored.
color?
Yeah, but I mean, you've got your Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was obviously huge for our generation, but like taking something like that and giving us kind of like scary stories, but realistically really rich stuff, and making it animated would be so cool. The animated Twilight Zone would be awesome.
I remember so specifically being a kid and having the very specific thought of, if it's not animated, it's just boring.
Right? Yeah, it's like, oh, I want to watch cartoons.
just
I wanna
Where's the,
watch-
and,
boring.
and my
Yeah.
parents would be like, I can't watch cartoons. I just don't like them. They stupid. They don't make sense. I'm going to go watch my stories.
Story.
It's like, oh,
Definitely much
Dallas?
better.
Dallas? You're going to watch okay,
Animated Dallas. Let's do that.
That's the best answer. All right, guys. Now, you guys let us know in the comments below what you think the best answers are, and that's a toughie. Normally, I say it's my answer, but there's some really good ones up here. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and of course, to our guests, thank you for coming on. Brizzy, where can we find you and all of your wonderful stuff on the
I
internet?
am at Brizzy Voices on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook if ats were involved, and YouTube, Brizzy Voices.
Yeah. Check it out. And you've got over 1 million followers now, right?
Yes, you guys. Killing it.
Which
Telling you what,
Since she was
they're-
on the show,
and
since the
they're-
last time you were here, you broke 1
1
million.
million heartbroken little boys out there.
And girls.
And non-binaries. Hey.
Rob, where can we find you? Where we can find Talkie Tunes, your Twitter, your Instagram?
You can find me at the corner of Wilshire and Santa Monica selling
tricks to
oranges.
pay rent.
It's pretty slow. It's at Yakko Pinky is my Twitter feed. You can find me on Facebook and Rob Paulson, Paulsen on Instagram. And you can listen to my podcast that Brizzy was so kind to mention called Talkin' Tunes, which is TALKIN apostrophe TOONS, and you can get that on iTunes or robpaulsonlive.com. And I think to those of you who are interested in animation, voice acting, whatever, we have the best of the best. We have yet to have Brizzy, so we don't have quite the best. Because we're going to get her on. But the fact is, I've got like 130 or 40 of them, but you're going to hear from everybody, from Tress MacNeille to Tara Strong to Mark Hamill to Corey Burton to Billy West, Maurice LaMarche, Phil Lamar. Goes on and on and on and on. They're so super talented, very generous with their time, and you will learn so much, even if you're a fan or if you're somebody who wants to like Brizzy, pursue this as a career. It's free, and the advice is from people who do this every day and have for a generation. So it's all valuable information, and it's an awful lot of fun.
It's so insightful and interesting and fun and
Well, thank
fascinating.
you,
You need
sweetie.
to just check it out because it'll make you
Thank you.
fall in love with the world.
Your best voice acting voice.
My best voice? Well, it's my voice because obviously that's the best voice that anyone has ever heard ever.
Yeah, but what about this one? I like. That's my voice acting voice.
Nice.
That's my Luke Cage.
That's your one.
It's also my Michael Jai White. Yeah, Michael Jai White.
I'm noticing a theme. I'm noticing a theme.
Phil Lamar's my hero.
I love that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching Unpopular Kids. We'll see you later.
Bye. McCarthy's going to be doing her improv-y thing
Probably gonna fall through a coffee table at some point.
at some point or
See,
another. She lived in a van
I thought
down
there
by the
wasn't
river.
enough of her in the tree. Like, she played it super straight. She was like the exposition machine.
Well, Kristen Wiig is 100%.
Humor in superhero movies. Is it something that we should structure our future movies around? What movies have done it well?
Are you basing this off of the success of a current movie?
Well, let's look at Deadpool. Would Deadpool